Okay, good. Well, recording's in progress, right? Um, First, my name is Farrell D. Moore, and I'm the editor of Whitecap Publications. And I'd like to introduce Jude Matulich-Hall to the studio audience. Jude, would you introduce yourself a little bit of your writing history and the new book you've got coming out in late October or early November for Whitecap Publications?
Yeah.
So with that, I'll turn it over to you, right?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Jude Matulich-Hall, and I started writing back in college when I was in my early 20s, and I was going to get my degree and everything, and then I changed my mind, and so I quit writing, and I picked it back up when I turned 40, and it wrote my first novel. It took me 4 years to write my first novel, and in the meantime, have started doing it did some short stories that I've had published, and we'll have my first book published at 45. So yeah,
It's never
that's
too
my
late to
history.
start, right?
Yeah, it's not a very long history, but it's a great one. So
So what's the name of your book, by the way? And what genre is it?
the Everstein Chronicles Small Demons, and it's the first in a series, the Everstein Chronicles series. And what was the other question?
Oh, what
Oh,
genre is it?
what genre is it? Well, we're trying to figure that out pretty much, but it's gothic fantasy with some steampunk elements, Victorian fantasy elements. Yeah, so
Really good, right?
yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about the characters in the novel?
Yeah, there's the main character.
Yeah,
There's
the main
kind of
characters.
the main characters. So there's four main characters, but of course there's like one that's the main characters. Penelope Vetiver Shrew. She's got a long name because she's got a great background. So Penelope Shruti Vetiver O'Connell, and she
Well, that's
is.
quite a mouthful, right?
Yeah. Her mother is of Hindi heritage and her father is Irish. And she's a private detective and that lives in Everstein, which is a really big city, but it's an isolated city. And she comes across, she meets a sergeant by the name of Heathrow Julius Jennings,
Another mouthful,
and
right?
they embark on investigating some things happening in Everstein. So just weird little things are happening. It doesn't seem, they're not big crimes,
Right.
but just little weird tomfooleries happening. And also the environment is changing and getting hot. And so then some other characters that come in is Dorje Jamyang, who's a Buddhist monk, and he has a
Got a
chant.
fantastic name too, right?
Yeah. And Dorje Jamyang actually means something like quiet voice. So I have some
Really?
irony in there because his chant actually has caused problems. His chant he can knock down walls with his chant. And
Whoa.
so it becomes kind of a superpower. Superpower. It becomes a gift throughout the story. He starts to get control of it, but it does cause some havoc in the beginnings of his.
I imagine so, right?
And then there's Patch, who's a demon, but he's reincarnated. So he was human his past life, and he reincarnates to become a full-grown demon. And so it's kind of in his karma to
When
help.
human in his last life and he reincarnates as a demon, right?
Yes, a full-grown one.
Why did he reincarnate as a demon?
Because that's part of the mystery is he's needed. He's not a huge character, but he's very important in that these people need to go to hell, travel through hell to find out what's going on because the environment is changing, things are getting hot. Everybody thinks Satan is causing it.
Right.
And so this detective and this sergeant and this monk, they get together, and Patch is there, and he's the one who's supposed to take them through hell. So he's kind of their guide. He's the one that can get them there because they're alive. And so there's no reason for them to go to hell.
Well, that's a perfect lead in. Explain a little bit about your plot.
So the plot is that demons are rising to the surface, and these people need to go to hell to find it. And so there's this
So
element called
demons are rising to the surface, right?
right.
Make sure you get this straight, right? So, okay,
Demon, little demons start to rise to the surface, and things start to go wrong with the environment. And
things that
they,
the two main characters can see.
yeah, oh yeah, everyone can see the demons.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's kind of
so they,
odd, right?
yeah, they start taking over things, and this isn't very clear. I know you're you're not going to edit this, are you?
No.
No. But they have, okay, so Penelope's grandfather was a great inventor, and
Okay.
he invented these goggles that could find lost things.
Okay.
So Penelope has these goggles, but she doesn't believe in magic. She doesn't believe in anything. So nothing's really working for her. These goggles
Right.
stopped working for a long time ago. And being a detective, it's great to be able to find lost things. And so
Right.
they figure out that the sergeant can use the goggles because he believes in everything. He's like, he believes in every religion, every god, he covers all his bases. And because of his belief and his connection with magic, he's able to wear the goggles. And so the goggles start to lead them. And that's where the goggles lead them through to hell. They need Patch to get them through into
So
hell.
Penelope doesn't believe in anything, so the goggles don't work for her, right? But they
No,
work
she,
for the detective because he believes in everything.
right.
Right?
So you've got a
Okay.
detective that believes in nothing and a sergeant that believes in everything
Now, why do they need Patch to lead them through hell?
because they're alive. And so like
Oh,
in the, so they can't go to these um afterlife places
right.
without some sort of guide. And so Patch is able to, when they get to hell, Charon, the ferryman, won't take them across the river.
That's a reason, right? Right.
Yeah. until Patch, he's like, oh, I can take you across.
Right.
And he's like, okay, but my friend have to come with me. And so that's how they get, Patch is able to open doors in hell,
Right.
whereas the living can't, right? So they had to have this.
Now that's fascinating. I mean, really, truly, it is. You don't see that play out so often in novels.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it's the first time I've ever heard of it.
Oh, well, let's keep it a secret. at
Oh,
least till October, right?
yes, yes.
So, yeah.
But honestly, tell me about why they go there, right? They are going to see why demons are rising to the surface and everything's getting hot, or to find out why they got to do to try and fix the earth, right?
Right. To try to fix the earth because everything's getting hot, right?
How do,
The
how do they
rivers start
assume
to
they're going
boil.
to fix the earth? Tell Satan stop, or
Well, and I don't want to give away too much because that's actually part of the
I see.
main story. So it's hard to reveal enough without revealing all.
Yes.
So the goggles are leading. I'm trying to figure out how much I can say.
That's
There's an element called sparks in in this Eversteam universe.
right.
So sparks are a form of energy, but also they're run kind of by magic, and so they can act as batteries for machines and things like that. And
Right.
so it's kind of like I don't know, electricity and coal and everything still exist in this universe, but they also have this extra thing called sparks.
Now, do Penelope and Heathrow know about sparks?
Everybody knows about sparks. It's
Ah,
like, it kind of helps run the world.
okay.
But there's secret sparks, which way in the past, there are these
Wait, there's
large
sparks.
sparks
Okay.
that the establishment, with a capital E, is searching for these secret sparks because they want to basically rule the world, right? You have enough power, you can take over governments.
That's
So,
fascinating.
so this establishment um, Sean O'Connell, Penelope's grandfather, used to work for the establishment,
Okay,
and it's to search out these special sparks.
right.
And so basically
Oh, that
what
was his job, right?
that was his job,
Right, right.
very, very undercover. And he was forced into it, but that's a whole other story. Like
Right.
this book only touches on those aspects on Sean's life, so
Okay.
that's another story. You do get enough information that you understand what's going on, but so basically the establishment, he realizes that these sparks are way too powerful for any one government to have,
Right.
or one entity to have. And so he hid them. He hid the ones he found. And while the goggles are leading them to one of these sparks,
Right.
which belongs to yeah, I'm going to stop right there.
Okay.
I almost gave it away.
I did that. With regard to the tricky, sometimes tricky element of theme, what is your theme? Tell me about the interplay of your theme throughout the developed novel,
Okay.
if you would.
Yeah. So the theme is, basically it's good versus evil, right? But in this book, it's like good isn't always good. Who you think is good isn't always good, and who you think is bad isn't always bad.
Right.
And so I think that's part of the theme, kind of running through it. And but also it's acceptance of people that are different,
Right.
and compassion, like building compassion for oneself, building compassion for others. And
How do you develop that theme though, Jude? I mean, honestly, how do you get the characters to develop compassion for one another?
well, like with Penelope, uh, she's really closed to relying on anybody else, because her grandfather disappeared when she was 18. Her mother and father died when 10 years prior to that.
Oh my.
So, over the course of her life, she's just like, you know what? I'm not going to rely on anybody. As soon as I start relying on somebody, loving somebody, they die, and so she's kind of closed off. And then the sergeant, he's opposite of he believes in everything outside of himself, but he doesn't have a whole lot of belief in himself. And so when they
Ah,
come together, they kind of start balancing each other out.
okay.
Heathrow starts getting some more self-confidence, and so he starts growing some compassion for himself,
Right.
whereas Penelope's never really had a problem having compassion for herself, but she's really had a problem, building compassion for others. And so there's kind of that element too. And Patch, he's being a demon, his little story is, these humans and this demon learn to work together.
Right.
And yeah, and then we have angels and demons, and
Sounds like
the relationships between them, because there are connections between heaven
right.
and hell. So I kind of play with those relationships too.
Since your story is fantastical and extreme, I like it. I like it. What elements do you draw on to create the tapestry that you've interwoven around your story?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part of your
Sure.
question.
Since your story is fantastical, what elements did you draw on to create the tapestry that you have interwoven around your story?
So Dante's Inferno
Right?
was a pretty was very inspirational for the hell
Really?
scenes. Yeah, and so that was kind of a map for my hell, the 9 levels and all that stuff. Although
Right?
um the original book was 130,000 words, and I covered all the levels and sub levels of hell,
Yes.
but I had to trim that down, so it's not quite. Yeah, I just gotta touch on some of them. So that's only maybe a quarter of the book is the hell areas. The other
Right?
aspects, Eversteam, well, the name Eversteam, I mean, it's kind of Victorian sci uh Victorian fantasy, steampunky, gothic kind of city. And so I built on those aspects, but not too much. I try, you know, I didn't want it to be too big and fantastic because
Right,
Eversteam itself isn't the focus of the story.
right.
So I did put much more effort into the hell areas. Nature comes in on it. There's lots of forests and the water and the boats and the sky ships and things like that.
Yes.
And the sparks. The sparks are a big aspect. And you know, it's funny, my child Sid helped create some of it because it wasn't going to be
We did.
a fantasy world when I started. But when I hit page 50, I got stuck. I was like, this is
Yep.
really boring. There's nothing. It was just going to be a modern detective mystery. And he was getting my child is getting into steampunk, and I was like, that's really cool. So I started playing around with
Yes,
it, and
you
that's
left, right?
that's what broke
Yes.
through the story, like this more fantastical,
Broke the ledge
magical.
end up, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was-
So did that answer your question?
Sure, sure, sure.
Sometimes I get off on tangents.
Well, I'm sure we'll all be, I think, interested in how it turns out,
Yeah.
because it sounds fascinating. It really does. Not just because we're publishing it, but it sounds fascinating in its own right.
Yeah. And you know, there's some little dark aspects, so it's kind of really nice for around Halloween time, you know, with the demons and everything. So
Oh, yeah, I never thought of that.
yeah. And
Gosh,
there,
it brings a whole new dimension to your work.
you know, without the hell part, I think it could very easily be read by kids, but when it gets into the hell realm,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So don't readers
I think we'll have to make
read it before
adult-
giving it to your kids, because it does get, at the beginning it doesn't seem like it's gonna, you know, it seems really family friendly,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
but it's not child friendly for sure.
Yes. Well, that's the Chronicles of Eversteam.
Or the Eversteam Chronicles.
Chronicles, pardon me, the Eversteam Chronicles. And it'll be issued forth in late October, early November from Jude Matulich-Hall. And we're all very excited to see how it turns out, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Wonderful.
All right. Goodbye now, Jude.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye.